you want to achieve the change of behavior of people in society, ideally you rely on good common sense, and most people have it. You know, most people just do the right thing. They don't need the law. However, there are of course areas where we are not quite clear whether we should be doing the right thing, because it happens so that wanting to do good for the environment might just interfere with our personal preferences, driving a car and all the rest of it. So the law has a very important role to play. I have this very fundamental feeling we are a small country in a very remote corner of the world, and what can be our contribution to this huge global problem. A more sort of cynical viewpoint would be that New Zealand has always felt it can get away with a number of things because it has been relying on its great image and the myth about New Zealand, and it's been exploited not just by the tourist industry but by virtually everybody who's producing or exporting from New Zealand. Consumer pressure or behavior of so-called ordinary citizen is crucially important. And until quite recently I find that most New Zealanders were rather unaware of climate change. Simple things. This is one of the very few OECD countries where you can still find consumers using their plastic bags and not having to pay for it. You have to pay it all over Europe. It's been phased out, and so-called little things. Of course, they do pile up. They make an impact by whether you have a plastic culture or not. But so-called little things are important in order to get used to a change of your lifestyle.
We are all obviously connected with this massive issue of climate change and carbon neutrality, transnationally or globally as well as locally. So activisms that happen at the local level can have an impact transnationally and vice versa.
And people should be writing petitions and signing petitions and talking to their MPs and the media and writing letters to the editor, those sorts of standard political tools, as well as voting. But there's one other thing that New Zealand has that is quite unique in the Western world: a citizens-initiated referendum, which enables any citizen to raise an issue and put it to Parliament that it be considered as a bill. And the way in which this happens is you have to design a question around, in this case, carbon neutrality, and it sends a really significant message to government that on this single issue, New Zealanders really believe quite strongly in it.
Climate change is the first time that humanity realizes, Jesus, we all suffer from the very same thing. The very core idea of society is, of course, the concept of a citizen. It's defined as a person with certain rights and obligations, and how citizens, more importantly, see themselves makes a crucial difference. I can have a choice individually, me myself, say, I'm a proud New Zealander to the exclusion of others. New Zealanders means superior to, well, Australian to start with, and maybe many other countries, somehow assuming that we are special. Or you can take a totally different attitude and say, well, I'm New Zealand and proud of it, but equally, and perhaps even more so, I'm a citizen of this beautiful planet, which is so precious and so vulnerable. Thereby expressing that your loyalties are with all people, and let's include plants and animals around the planet. It's a very different sort of psychological attitude, which of course translates to new ideas, political ideas and legal ideas.
The whole parliamentary thing is kind of a very formal way of engaging with politics, but there are all these informal ways of doing it too that are equally as important.
Those personal decisions that we make around taking a bus or recycling or trying to consume ethically and environmentally consciously, they add up, and they are political actions in and of themselves.
Good news is we can do something about climate change. We can really achieve our goal, 2020 carbon neutrality. The bad news is we can't have it for free. We need to commit, because there is no legal enforcement behind it. You can't enforce something that can't, where you don't have any laws behind it. So it has to rely largely on backing by central government. This is what democracy is all about, fundamentally. That we should get used to the idea that we should certainly have the opportunity to vote with every economic activity that's being conducted.
The chances of one policy issue like getting carbon neutral by 2020 staying the focus of people's consciousness for long periods of time is highly unlikely, and it's shown that issues wax and wane in the kind of intensity of public support and public opinion. Carbon neutrality is not going to be delivered in 3 years, so we have to know that and recognise that and keep the pressure on so that they recognise it's going to take till 2020. It would be lovely if it happened before, but it needs to be maintained beyond 2020, and I really believe that as a collective we have to recognise that it's our responsibility to keep governments accountable to that position.
Now, I would like to see this to be one of the major issues for the upcoming elections, where we as voters, obviously we have power, this is called democracy, that we go to the ballot box not just having our immediate concerns in mind, as valid as they are, job security, health and so forth, but go to the ballot box and also have the fate of your children in mind. It might make a difference. And then look at what parties are actually offering. You're only committed to reducing your carbon footprint if you are looking at all the levels of activities that you have personally, because each and every single level, whatever we do in one way or another, has an impact on how the climate will develop. So it's a very straightforward thinking and just good thinking that we need to do our bit, not for moral reasons, sort of taking the moral high ground, we as a small country should do more than others and so forth, but for pure reasons of realizing the dimension of the problem that we are dealing with.